Yeah, if I could talk to myself 10 years ago, I would just tell myself, like, wear your pink and, like, yeah, be girly and try and just do it while being yourself. And I think, yeah, that would have helped me, but it also, I think, would have accelerated like my guiding as well, because it took a while for me to figure out who I was after I got my certification. The mountains for me are where everything makes sense. I find meaning in life when I'm out there. I like when weather comes in, when we have storms. It helps put everything into perspective. Problems seem different when you're out there. I feel like that's where I learn about myself as well and grow. If I had to think about how many days I've been out ski touring, it's definitely over 1,000. I generally ski 100 days a year or more in some years. So yeah, I don't know the exact number, but in the thousands now. So ski touring is a way of moving through the mountains in the winter. It gives you access to pretty much anywhere you can think of. I decided to become an ACMG ski guide pretty naturally. It maybe even wasn't a conscious decision, but just a path that I was on. I was pretty set on learning absolutely everything I could about ski touring in the mountains and climbing. It was happening and I was on the train, and that was the only train that made sense in my life. ACMG ski courses are pretty stressful, but they're also pretty awesome. The exams themselves are about 9 days long, and you do them in remote places. It's 9 full days of out there in the mountains being watched on your decision making, your ski skills, your technical mountain skills, and everything else in between. It's basically as far as you can push yourself. I think it's somewhat realistic to what we do encounter in the mountains. A day in the life usually starts at least a couple days before the actual day, talking with other people about where we're going. And when we wake up, it's a process. I usually have about an hour set aside to go through weather, snowpack, avalanche conditions, and everything else that I may encounter during the day. Along the way, it's fairly straightforward. We're gonna just go through the valley and cross a few avalanche paths, but we don't expect avalanches to come all the way to valley bottom today, or even small avalanches. That's pretty unlikely today. Then we usually do some avalanche training, so making sure they're comfortable with that. Just getting everybody organized and relaxed so that we can just start going. Yeah, there's lots of things that are going through my mind as we're traveling to our objective. The weather, what the snow is doing under our feet, how it feels. Things like the wind. Is the wind picking up or is it subsiding? Is the snow on the face that we're about to go under or that we want to ski on? Once you're actually out there in the terrain, you have to have a way of making decisions and know what to think about and look for. That process is important because if you don't have a way of making decisions in the mountains, you don't have a way of reflecting on if you actually made good decisions or getting better for your next time out. Yeah, I think the biggest thing though is that you bring people home smiling, and so that doesn't always mean that we're getting to our objective itself or getting to the top of something because of avalanche conditions. And I think it's really important for me, at least when I'm giving these people their experience, that they understand like what risks they're exposed to, and that's a really important aspect of it.
It's about 1:30 and I think we're about half an hour from the top from like how fast we've been going, so.
Being a ski guide is most days really good. We can take people out in the mountains and bring them to the tops of peaks and let them experience powder for the first time or even the 100th time. But it also means that we are responsible for this person's life, and they have families and places that they want to go home to at night. And so being a ski guide means not only giving people an amazing mountain experience, but also keeping them safe and making sure that they come home alive. People's confidence is usually pretty high when they first start ski touring in their decision making. Our confidence in decision making usually goes down over time. The more you see, the less confident you feel in your decision making, and so I think that's a good take home for people who are just starting to ski tour. Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of challenging times for me in the mountains. Like, they bring so many good memories, but I think you have to constantly fight with your own ego when you're out here in the mountains. Like, there's cold temperatures, challenging conditions, and then days where like you just feel really bad. You have days where like maybe physically or emotionally you don't feel great, and then you put yourself in the mountains and it kind of doubles down on how it makes you feel. So like everything is amplified. I think if you can push through it, then you always are better off in the end. Yeah, maybe I don't feel great, but I'm like going guiding. I have to put on like a mask and forget about how I feel physically or mentally and just focus on how the guests feel and everybody else feels, and that's hard. There's days where the risk of the mountains hits closer to home. One day I was guiding a few years ago, and it was the end of the day and we had an awesome day. Clients were happy. We were just almost at the parking lot, and there was a guy skiing back in towards the peak. I stopped and just asked him, why he was going back, and he said he hadn't seen his friend in a couple hours. Since it was so close to darkness, I called a rescue for him to help find his friend, just because there wasn't much time left in the day for us to go back up. And so the helicopter came, and they flew over the area, and they saw a pair of skis sticking out of a tree well. And yeah, for us, that was a really challenging day because we were so close to these guys. We couldn't see them. They were skiing just the next glade over, basically, and didn't even know they were there. But yeah, one of them didn't make it that day, and so that definitely makes you reflect on why you do what you do. At the end of the day, and then wonder, so for the next day, I guess it just shows you that you're vulnerable, and when we looked back at our day, you know, like sometimes you don't realize it, but you're pretty close to the edge sometimes. Yeah. There's definitely a lot of reasons not to expose yourself to the risks the mountains bring, but there's a lot of reasons to do it as well. I think people can learn about themselves. They can literally see new things around every corner. You can basically expand your mind out there. You can push yourself to your limits. I think that's the biggest thing, is like you can figure out where your limits are in the mountains. Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing once you find that limit, and sometimes you're able to push past it. That for me is a big reason why people should ski tour. So a successful day of guiding is one where people come back and the only thing that they can think about is, you know, if they have chips in the car. You know, like it's satisfying, and it's a day where you just got to forget about everything else. I think that's the most important part about being in the mountains, is just letting go of everything else and having a good time. And yeah, usually you need some salt at the end of the day. You need days when you're not working in the mountains. Like, that's equally important, to have days for yourself. People think, well, you must not want to go skiing on your days off, but I need them. I need these days, yeah. I struggled to like be myself, you know, and I would change who I was depending on who I was around, and especially when I was getting into guiding, it was super masculine, and like that was what it looked like to be a good guide, was, and that's what it felt like, at least. And so after I got my certification, you know, like I had to basically rediscover myself, and like I felt free actually after I got my certification to like be myself.
Sun's out, fun's out.
Ski touring means, for me, like, it's just a way to, I guess it's a way of like living a good life.